Hey guys, welcome to tonight's live stream with Couch Conversations with the Doctors. Before we get started, I just wanted to let you guys know that the Congressman is in a meeting, Ways and Means meeting. As you know, as a politician, you can't always control your schedule, so we're going to honor that by having him allow us to host. Nikki may be back in a little bit, but she's actually doing some things to support that as well. So we'll get this conversation started. As you know, I'm a family and obesity doctor. Love to spend time with you guys every Monday evening whenever I can make it. And I also have my colleagues with me. So maybe Dr. James Miller can introduce himself.
Oh, good evening, everybody. As Dr. Hampton said, my name is Dr. James Miller, and I'm a retired internist. I practiced approximately 40 years all over Chicago and also in the western suburban areas. And I enjoyed that. But I'm now retired from the clinical practice, and I'm still interested in doing what I can to help heal the community. And so I try to do that in different ways, and I than just what I was doing when I was practicing clinical medicine, because I've always understood there are things that we need to do, but while you have people lives as your main responsibility, the time has to be reallocated, and some of the things that you want to do in terms of being able to reach out, you can't find that time. And so I found myself that being retired, it does give me the time to be able to do those things in a way that I was never able to do it before, and I'm enjoying that. And we're here tonight to again, that's what this is about, is helping to make our community as healthy as we possibly can, to identify the problems and to talk about some possible solutions. So we're here to do what we can to heal the community.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Miller. And Dr. Mason, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Dr. Terry Mason. I am a happily retired urologist. Uh, like Dr. Miller, and I am. I really, really am. I'm grateful. I just passed my 72nd birthday, so I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful for still being able to be of service to our community. Much of what I still do, as you know, I have taken a special interest in food, understanding that food is probably the rate limiting step for almost every disease that we can imagine. And so putting out information, I've gone to many, many meetings, many, many seminars, hosted some meetings ourselves that we call health summits when I was at the county. So I'm happy to continue to share that information that we've learned, so that you can then have the information you need to make the better decisions for yourself. Because what works is what you do. Because it doesn't matter how good we say something is, if you don't try it and work with it, tweak it where necessary, you're not going to make any change. So we'll probably talk a little bit more about that as we go. So thank you. Thank you so much. I almost said Tony.
You're good. No, you're good. Well, you have always been a mentor for many of us. And when I started my journey towards healthy living, it took doctors like yourself, particularly when we don't have a lot of people of color who are spreading this message. We've both been in food documentaries, and what you'll notice when you look at the documentaries we're both in, usually we're the only person of color in those documentaries, although I have seen others. So I do think that's important. And I do want to do a shout out to Yolanda Williams, who is saying good evening, and Audrey J. Cox, who's also saying good evening. And one of the things that may be worth touching on, doctors, is the documentary that's out on Netflix, which Dan Buettner took a trip to the 5 areas where are considered blue zones, where the centenarians, people who can live up to 100 and beyond. And what I love about this platform, and for those, I actually shared this stream on my platform as well. What I love about this platform is that you have a low carb keto carnivore doc, you have a more of a plant-based doc and Dr. Terry Mason, and Dr. Miller's probably somewhere in the middle. And what's cool about that is that we can, when I was at the Symposium for Metabolic Health, my topic was how vegans and carnivores can live in harmony. And I did touch on the blue zones a little bit, but so we may have different opinions about, the plants versus the meat. I do believe that a lot of people in the blue zone still eat meat, but the point I want to raise tonight, docs, is I'm going to speak to really quickly what are the other things that they talk about in the blue zones that impact people's longevity. And I think we'll both agree on all of those. And I want to just mention them. And what I love about Dan Buettner is that when you have conversations with people in areas where people live longer, you learn so much. That's why everybody should take a moment to go to Netflix. If you have a membership, check out the documentary. And so it's not a randomized controlled trial, it's all observational, but you have lessons that we learn. And when I see observational information, what I tell people is now we have the ability to do further research. So I'm going to name those the things that he mentioned real quick, and then we can talk a little bit about those. So the first thing he talks about is to move naturally. And what's cool about moving naturally is that when you move naturally, you are not necessarily going to the gym. They do not go to gyms in places like Okinawa, Japan, and Korea, Costa Rica, etc. What they do is they're very active people, right? So the first lesson, if you can be more active, particularly as you get older, that's going to probably keep you on the planet longer. Sitting at home with that remote, watching Andy Griffin. I love Andy Griffin, but you need to get up and move. So that's the first thing I wanted to mention. The second is downshift. And what downshift means is that you have an opportunity to, relax a little bit. And we were just joking before we started, how do we have time to do this, right? Well, I make sure that even at work, I'm having fun, and I make sure I have time to relax. And I went to Mississippi a couple of weekends ago. So you have to, don't overwork is what the second message was. And then you have to belong. And we have a community here with the Couch Conversations with the Doctors, but we all need to have a sense of belonging, having people that love and support us. And if you have that, you're likely to be on the planet longer. Loved ones first. And I think that's just valuing your family. Sometimes if you don't have family, it's a good friend, it's a neighbor, but you got to have them as a priority. Make sure that you let them know they're a priority. And that's really important. One of the ones I like the most in the blue zones that allows us to live longer is having a sense of purpose. And when going back to that question about how do you have the energy to do this, it's because it's my purpose. My purpose is to teach this healing message of metabolic health. And I think everybody should think about what their purpose is. Why was I born? Why did God create me? And once you know what that is, you should live your purpose. Being with the right tribe. One of the things I learned in my obesity training is that who you hang with may determine your weight, which is really interesting, right? So I'm not suggesting you get rid of your friends who are not the weight you want to be. What I'm saying is be cautious about who you hang with. My kids were always taught the phrase, if we can't grow together, we can't chill together. So be thoughtful. If you're around people who are poisoning you in terms of not helping you achieve your goal, you may want to reconsider. The other one is the 80% rule. And that's speaking about how full you are. So if you're about 80% full, you may want to slow down. Give your digestive system a chance to feel full, and you'll probably find that you don't need that extra 20% that was left on the plate. And then finally, wine. Who knew, right? Many people in the blue zones are not afraid to have a little wine at the end of the day. So I'm not suggesting if you're not a drinker, you should go get wine. What I am suggesting that if you have a glass a day, you'll probably find that that'll probably not be a bad thing. So, because in those countries, they're doing exactly that. So I want us to just digest that. And people who are listening in, check out in the comments, give your thoughts on which one of those resonate the most with you.
I think, Tony, you got frozen there for a second. And while you're thawing, I'll comment too, because I actually had the opportunity to be with the author of that book at a meeting that Neil Barnard put on in D.C. And uh, the blue zones are but one of the points that you make, and I'd like to underscore, is that they every morning, and many of the people had known each other for 50, 60 years, but every morning they got together, they had coffee and they had conversation. And that kind of assembly, that kind of having those kind of people that you have a pattern of reaching out and touching, really, really is very, very important. And and I grew up in a neighborhood where some of that was still around, but not like it is there. And I thought that was very striking, Tony, when I saw that when they talked about that. He actually, the author, came to the meeting, and he talked about that and the power of just meeting with somebody every day for 60 years.
Mhm. Yeah.
60
Yeah.
years. They got together every morning for coffee, and they sat
Mm.
down and they talked. And can you imagine what kind of environment that helped to breed? Because everybody was talking to each other, not all at the same time, but all talking every day, sharing what happened the day since they saw each other the day before. So I just wanted to underscore that, and I'm sure you got frozen, so I just wanted to make that point.
Yeah, I love that. And before Dr. Miller comments, if you think about that, there is somebody in your life who needs to hear your voice. There's somebody who needs to talk to you. And the wisdom that comes from particularly our more senior relatives is beyond imagination. I mean, you just can't imagine the things that I just asked you. I can't, I literally was at my mom's house recently, and I just asked her a very simple question. I said, "So, Mom, why did you, when you came to Chicago, she worked for Nestle. She worked for that job for her entire life." I said, "Mom, did you have any other dreams? Mom, did you?" And I'm thinking she's gonna say I did, but I was trying to take care of you guys. She said, "No, I came to Chicago. Nestle's was a great opportunity. They paid well at the time." And I never really looked back, and I just did that for my entire, working life. And I had never asked my mom that. So just imagine. And then I started asking her other questions. So think about that person in your life who really has that wisdom. They need to hear from you, but you also need to hear from them. So before Dr. Miller comments on, we're talking about the blue zones, Dr. Maya, and the lessons learned, because that great Netflix documentary is out there. And so I'll let Dr. Miller comment, but maybe you should introduce yourself, Dr. Maya, first. Yeah, get that mute. Yeah. Okay, there you
It's
go.
the mute button
Yeah.
struggle I go through every week. Hi everybody, my name is Maya. They call me Dr. Maya 100 because I love to keep it 100. Excited about these conversations. I got into just listening and learning from this team here. So thank you all for having me, and community, let's talk.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Miller. What's your thoughts on those lessons learned from the Blue Zones from Dan Buettner?
Yeah, though, I haven't seen the Netflix, but the things that you are mentioning, and when you really just apply those things almost to any aspect of life, it creates the kind of harmony. It creates the kind of peace in people's lives. Because what happened, what I see today is that people are just sort of bundled up with all kinds of stuff, and they don't seem to have the kind of
Mhm.
outlet that is healthy and is not destructive. So all those five things seem to be things that are that applies to all aspect of living and communal in communities. And we as you said, God did not put us in on islands by ourselves. So we're part of something, and that's an important thing for us to remember. If your finger can't jump away from the hand and do its thing, we all got to understand that whatever we do, that in some way it's probably going to affect somebody other than us alone. If you put your finger on the hot stove, your whole body's going to feel that discomfort. And so it's so important to create that harmony and to be able to come together, and I don't think that we can solve the issues of conflict if we can't talk together, if we can't really have good discussion, if we don't get to know one another, because what it is that everybody feels that I'm on one side and everybody else is on a different side,
Yeah.
and therefore uh we're just we're just, we begin to become selfish because we want to make certain that what it is that we are doing, that everybody sort of cooperate with that, and you can't have 100 people doing the same thing in the same space at the same time every day. It just doesn't work. And so, yeah.
I appreciate that. Before Dr. Maya maybe chimes in about the blue zones, let me go through it one more time. Move naturally, don't overwork, have a sense of belonging, put your loved ones or your family first, have a sense of purpose, live your purpose, be in the right tribe, 80% rule, eat until you're about 80% full. And of course, make sure that if you're a drinker, wine is okay at the end of the day. So Maya, I'm not sure if you're a drinker, but when you hear those things, what do you think? What comes to mind?
So no, I'm not a drinker. It's not my jam. But one thing I think I noticed about the blue zones is and it brings me back to why we're here, how we ended up on Couch Conversations during COVID. People were having a hard time accessing real talk about what was going on, around them. People felt so, because of the physical distancing, you know, people associated that with social distancing. And so there were many other issues and stuff like that. And so, what I'm thankful to Nikki and the congressman for doing is creating this space where people can come together, share what's going on with them. I see comments going on in in the section right now where people are asking, like, what about my hip? What about, like, what are these things? And where community can connect, because speaking of tribe, we know our community, people of African descent, move in tribes. We do, no matter how far we are away. Um, the point that I want to make is those tribes had some sort of faith and hope,
Yeah.
which is why we initially started Couch Conversations, to double down on faith and hope. And that was a big factor in their wellness and how long they live. So speaking to purpose, yes, and purpose, and that purpose was tied into some form of hope, some form of faith, some sort of belonging beyond just the human, aspect that we see. And I think, that's very important to note. That was my favorite part of it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, as a person who drinks his red wine every day, I take my glass, my part of red wine every day, and I've been doing it for a long, long, long time. And I really got started more after, to your point, Tony, after listening to the Blue Zones, because that's when you see that and you see what they're, and that, see, you don't have to drink to get drunk. You can, that's not the purpose. That's not the purpose. And a good red wine is really to be enjoyed and shared among friends. And that's kind of what we're doing. Just wanted to say that. I wanted to add another dimension to our conversation, and that is what we, in terms of nutrition, and you guys can chime in. But doctors, the reason why you don't get a lot of information from your doctors about nutrition, because we haven't been taught. Any of us that have gone on to have any real discussion around nutrition, we didn't learn that in medical school. We learned that after school. We learned that in conferences that we went to because we wanted to learn more. And I know that's true for myself in terms of how this has happened for me, because what we got in nutrition at the University of Illinois, we had one lecture for 40 minutes on nutrition. And it really wasn't about nutrition. It was about deficiency diseases. It was about iron deficiency anemia, which is caused by lack of iron, scurvy, lack of vitamin C, and those sorts of things. But never any real discussion until hyperalimentation came into view. We started knowing that, hey, when people were malnourished or not nourished well, when you operated on them, they didn't do so well. They didn't heal so well. So, and when we did these huge operations that we used to do on people, like operations to take out pancreases and stuff like that, you had to supplement them nutritionally. And the only thing I'll say about this is that there's a book written by Moynihan called Selling Sickness. And he said, I wanted to be like Wrigley. He wanted everybody taking some medicine. And what we have to do is our system is really, unfortunately, not built around as much healing us as it is managing us. And management, I'm not saying it's not important, but what we were taught to do is how to manage disease. And we were actually taught that cure wasn't necessarily possible. So what we have to do is really understand that our roles, and many of us on this conversation, on this panel, have moved beyond just trying to manage diseases, but really looking at how can we reduce the total burden of that disease as close to zero as we possibly can by using food, because food is the real culprit with most of the diseases that we have. That's so right. I'll stop right there, and I'd like to hear from my colleagues on this, because all of us have been through this struggle, and some have resolved it different ways. And as you mentioned, as Dr. Hampton said at the beginning, we have different routes to get there, but the key is still focused around the need for us to eat food and drink water.
That's right. That's right. And I think this ideal of, what myself and my colleagues, Dr. Mason particularly included, agree to: excessive sugar is harmful. Processed food is harmful. Processed seed oils that were not, cold pressed and done the proper way are probably harmful. So what we want to do is live in a world where people gather, celebrate, the cooking of food, maybe even grow their own food, and start moving back towards that old methodology. And just by simply doing that, you're going to be far down the road to healing. And I just think that for me, I've seen it, so often that I struggle not to talk about it every time I see a patient. I've actually gotten bad reviews periodically from patients who don't understand why I'm talking about nutrition every visit. He's always talking about nutrition. Well, they'll have to, put cuffs on me before I stop talking about nutrition. I'm just going to do that because food is medicine. Now, before I let my colleagues comment more, I want to just say hi to One Hope for All, who's just saying good evening to us. And she wants to live in harmony with cows. And it's interesting she says that, because when I was in Mississippi a couple of weeks ago with Don and his wife, Anastasia, in, I think, Utica, Mississippi, I actually did some filming, and I'm going to share that in a week or so, talking about regenerative farming. And yes, those cows are similar to us in so many ways. And I noticed that they were protecting their babies, right? And never get it twisted. Animals are very similar to us in that they want to protect their babies. They want to live a healthy life. And so rather you're animal or plant-based, you want to honor that and make sure you give them the best life possible. One good thing I learned while I was there is a lot of times I thought factory farming was just the whole life in the factory. And what I learned is that a lot of these small farmers actually raise these animals and then eventually send them to the factory. So at least that most of their lives are actually much better than we've been told. But anyway, good getting involved to make a difference said good evening. Linda A. Johnson said good evening. Virginia Knight, evening, everyone. Happy Monday. Crystal Bennett Kyle said, any help for early hip pain that is now going to my outer thigh? Does cherry juice and magnesium really help? I'm tired of limping and using a cane. I want to put my heels back on. I'm 62, and I want you to be able to wear those heels too. I'll only comment if my colleagues can add. We always recommend magnesium as a nice way to deal with pain. There's magnesium cream, there's magnesium oil. And those are nice because they don't go through your system, because magnesium can make you more regular. That's number two. So if you get too much magnesium, it'll make you, potentially have diarrhea. But magnesium is great for so many things. Cherry juice is definitely an anti-inflammatory, but I do tend to encourage maybe a cherry supplement if you want to go in that direction. Juice can be a problem for some people, so be careful with the juice, because most juices will give you about 7 teaspoons of sugar for an 8-ounce cup. And then, of course, rather you're doing a low fat approach, Dr. Terry Mason would recommend, or a low carb approach. Those both are anti-inflammatory, so you can take that as a way to do. Never just rely on supplements ever. You got to do nutrition first, and then you have to figure out a way, to the extent you can move, get your stress down, get your sleep, and then work on a diet plan that you prefer. And before we add to that, good evening from Parnell King. Charles McDavid, he's family, so I want to do a shout out to him. Say hi to your mom. I know his mom, of course. D. Lee, hi doctors. D. Lee also saying, wonderful. Rodriguez said, as a stay-home mom, I can see the value in having a community. You better know it. Dennis said, can you be obese and metabolically healthy? I'll only comment and I'll stop talking. My answer is yes, but it's harder. I don't know. So obese, by the way, is at 30 BMI, right? Now, I just want to be clear. LeBron James has about a 30 BMI, right? But he's also an Adonis. He's nothing but muscle. So if you're going to have a higher BMI, I would love to see more muscle on your body. People of color can have a higher BMI than other groups of folk, because we have denser bones and things of that nature. And you could argue you probably need to start at 27, 28 to be fair to people of color. But at the end of the day, and you can do things like density tests to look at your, how much fat you have in there, how much muscle. They have tests you can do, DEXA scans. But in general, yes, you can be. The wrestlers in places where they do sumo wrestling, they're actually metabolically healthy until they stop doing that art of wrestling. So you can do it. It's harder, but I wouldn't, you want to strive to not be too high, because when you look at studies, absolutely can have increased risk for mortality as the BMI gets a little higher, like in the 40 and 50 range. So I'll stop talking and let my colleagues chime in.
Yeah, well, I think that one of the things as we are talking about is that another issue that we've often spoken of is prevention, and we got to in order to be able to help people to be healthier, we have to learn how to prevent diseases, and in prevention, I mean, just when we look at things, the things that we've become used to doing, it is more difficult to stop doing them. And so we have to figure out ways that we can begin to teach our children at an early age, and that how to eat healthy, how to do healthy, have a healthy life. And then and oftentimes, I mean, oftentimes people will say, don't do as I do as I say. But unfortunately, when children see you doing something, that's what they learn. And so we really do have to make certain that whether you're dealing with issues like the lady that has the problem with her hip, you got to begin to work on ways to prevent this thing from progressing. And so part of that is moving and exercising, and as well as the diet. And so all these things are part of what make people healthy. As Dr. Mason often says, we can take a pill and it may help to control the pain, but it never gets rid of the problem. And maybe antibiotics might be the one exception where we may get rid of bacteria. But other than that, most things are just kind of giving you a little bit of relief, but the problem continues to evolve and to continue to go on. So we really got to figure out ways that we can get people to understand that the conversation about prevention is so important, and living a life where you're preventing these problems, because that addict that says an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, it is really most of the time that ounce of prevention is the only answer to cure. Because sometimes once you get the problem, trying to reverse it is really difficult. So so we really have to work harder um, with prevention, and because that really is where we're going to find our answer. And prevention comes in what we eat, what we do with our bodies each day, with our whether we get our the proper rest, whether we get the proper exercise, whether we have the proper environment, proper friendship, all these kinds of things. Those are ingredients that are much more important than the things that we write on prescription pads.
Dr. Maya?
Yeah, you're still muted, Dak.
One day I'm gonna get this mute situation under control. You know, one day it's gonna come. It's gonna come. You know what I'm saying? Faith over fear. But anyway, I tell my patients the most important thing, and tying it back to the blue zone, you know, is that you remain active and build it in, right? Because I know if you like me and you think, oh, you know, I'm gonna be active at the gym, then I've already put a barrier and, you know, built a barrier for myself. I got to make it to the gym, you know. But if I find ways of, if I know, if I find ways of, like, if I know I'm going to watch a documentary, you know, once a week, once every other week, you know, get some resistance bands, sit and move, you know,
Yeah,
stand up and move, you know, and get a plan that incorporates exercising into my daily, or activity into my daily pattern. Not, okay, I can stand on a treadmill and run on a treadmill when I get to the gym. I mean, for those of us that like that, I finally got to the point after all these years where I actually enjoy running, you know. And it only took me 46 years. But if you're anything like me, incorporate it while you watch your one documentary. Incorporate it while you listen to your motivational speeches. I like motivation, the motivation speech playlist on Spotify. Incorporate it. That way you're not waiting to stay healthy. So after you keep your heart healthy and your muscles strong, your body then tells you what your BMI is going to be. You know, but more important to me than anything is the activity you have. Nutrition is important, but if we're talking about just looking at size, before you look at what size you are, look at how healthy you are. Are you moving around? Are you, you know, and then your body tells you where it wants to land. Yeah. I hope that makes sense.
Nikki, did you want to chime in?
You talking to me?
Oh, Nikki, I just wanted to make sure she didn't want to chime in. Yeah.
Oh no, I'll chime
You're good?
in. No,
Okay.
I am good. Keep going. This is great.
All right, I just
Great
want to make sure. I'll continue.
And you've been reading the comments, which I love.
That's what I'm gonna do some more of. I just noticed. So thank you, Nikki. I didn't want to overstep your leadership role in our group. So Veronica is saying hello from Pennsylvania. B Dog, you gotta love that name. Hey, DLOL. Getting involved to make a difference. There is healing in food God created. 100. We all agree with that. Connie, thank you, Dr. Mason. We need to hear what you are saying. Yolanda Williams, Dr. Tony, keep talking and speaking truth to your patients. We applaud you that you are not worried, that you're not worried about reviewing, but our health. So I'm not reading this quite right, but I just appreciate those comments. D. Lee, hey, B. Hey, B, who's B? Anybody know who B is? Yolanda, Dr. Mason, you are correct. You don't have to get drunk, but enjoy a glass of wine. I think a lot of people in my family are going to be happy to hear that. B-Dog, hey, everyone. D. Lee, I never knew that magnesium helped with pain. It helps with sleep. It helps with stress. It helps with blood pressure. I mean, there's probably no mineral that I can think of that's more beneficial to magnesium. I don't take a lot of supplements, but I take magnesium. I take vitamin D. I take omega-3 because I don't eat enough seafood. And I love that. Dr. Maya, Dr. Miller from Yolanda, we were so scared during COVID, and we all go us through with truth, knowledge, and wisdom. So truth, knowledge, and wisdom is important, and it helps to heal your mind and your whole body. Douglas is kind of contributing, and we appreciate you, Douglas, to the community that we're trying to create. So thank you so much for your contribution to help this kind of continue. I guess Epsom salt, I'm glad they brought that up, because Epsom salt is definitely a source of magnesium. So when you're doing a magnesium cream or magnesium oil, it's essentially like putting Epsom salt on your body. So if you have an ache and pain and you're doing it for stress or sleep or for other reasons like your blood pressure, you put it on the ache and pain, it's going to work like Epsom salt. So I love that. And then we have Upendo Parker. Great conversation. D. Lee, I've been taking magnesium lately to help with bad muscle cramps. I never had them before. Homesick Buckeye. It's so funny. So thank you for the contribution, Homesick. Homesick Buckeye is amazing. His name is Russ. Now, Russ is a guy who was at 540 pounds, right? I met him at Keto Orlando. He decided to start on a dietary journey. What I like about Russ is that he is not afraid to start the journey before he becomes like, the muscle man, right? He's like, hey, I'm 540. He's probably down to 500 now, and we need Russ. So I absolutely encourage everybody to go to Homesick Buckeyes YouTube channel, subscribe, because he is an inspiration. He cracks jokes. He's funny. And if you want to enjoy the journey with somebody who's getting it done, that's the guy. B-Dog, I have cramps too sometimes. And he uses a LMNT as a electrolyte supplement. Many people who are doing low carb have to take electrolytes, and that is one of the best on the market. I use Keto Chow, but electrolytes may be, because carbohydrates attract water and salt. So if you're not eating carbs, you have to replace the salt, magnesium and potassium. Bonnie, I love this. Russ saying, hey, and I got to go back to Russ. He said, Dr. Tony threatened me. I'm in fear of my life. That is absolutely true. Russ is bigger than me, but I'm not scared of Russ. I just want to put that out in the public. And then finally, we have Miss Leek. Thank you for this platform and supporting my quest for healthy living. Understanding the Blue Zone is very helpful on my journey. And then magnesium lotion was mentioned by Douglas. And one more thing, do these fine doctors have YouTube channels? Thanks, Doc, for everything you do so much. I don't think my other colleagues have YouTube channels yet. There is a Couch Conversations YouTube channel that's not, so if you're streaming, I know Carnivore Today is another low carb influencer who has a wonderful channel that I would recommend as well. But I don't think my colleagues do, but we do have a Couch Conversations YouTube channel. And then, of course, No Insanity is Renee, and she's doing a shout out. She's a very involved in the community and always sharing her voice. So again, let me repeat the Blue Zones one more time for those who are just joining. The concepts that they talk about by Dan Buettner, we're just encouraging people to check out the documentary, Move Naturally. A downshift, meaning to make sure that you're, not overworking, belonging. And I think Dr. Meyer was able to remind me that belonging also is about religion. So a lot of people in the Blue Zones are faith-based. So if you're a spiritual person, continue to be that. If you're a universe person, continue to be that. Loved ones first, putting family first, having a sense of purpose, being with the right tribe. In other words, people who are adding value to your life and not taking away. Eat until you're about 80% full. And then, of course, having wine at the end of the day. So let's continue the conversation.
So, Tony, I want to jump in really quickly just to say, Dr. Mason does have a YouTube channel as well. And Dr. Mason also has a radio show. So just want to remind people that it is a live stream radio show that you can call in. You can listen. It's on Sundays at 10 a.m. Am I correct, Dr. Mason? Is there a doctor in the house? Is the title. So it's a great show, and you do get the opportunity to listen. And that is also streamed on it's streamed on their channel and YouTube just as well. So just want to make sure.
What's the name for YouTube? Is there a name?
Is there a doctor in the house?
Okay, is there a doctor? Okay, gotcha.
But it's actually under WVON.
Oh, okay, cool.
But if you Google either one, it will pop up.
And I think a lot of the radio stations, if you have an app, I I know iHeartRadio. I know there's an app where you can get a lot of radio programs as well. Probably iHeart.
iHeart is one of them.
Yeah. So that's because a lot of people, are in other parts of the country. So I want to make sure that they have access to that. And I'll probably join you on that for an episode at some point, Dr. Mason. So thank you, Nikki, for reminding us of that.
Doctor in the House has been on the air for 31 years.
Wow. Amazing.
I've done that show every week for 31 years.
That's insane.
Yeah. And it's been a godsend, and we've done a lot of things. I was just talking to Jack Lynch from who was at the Gift of Hope, and just following him around as he was doing this whole work of trying to get people organs and just what that entailed. But yeah, I really, really appreciate it. But I would also like to add is one of the things I found, and my colleagues can certainly chime in with this, we've been so medicalized in the way we think that we think of even food that way. So will I eat this and that make this go away? Or will I eat this and make that go away or make this better? What it requires in my mind is a balanced approach. And I think that there are a number of things that you can do, but stop expecting one thing to fix it. It's not the way it works. It's just not the way it works. And in terms of exercise, my son will probably cringe when he hears this because he's a trainer and this is what he does. But I mean, I think that I don't go to the gym. I go outside to God's gym. And what I do is the one thing you all learn to do, probably the second thing in your life, and that is learn from crawling to walking.
Yeah.
And there's no exercise in my mind that will really give you, especially, and all you have to do is just add distance. You don't have to run fast. You don't have to do it fast. You just add distance. And I started out, and I started out coming from a meeting up at 4700 North on Broadway. And it was one of those beautiful days, and just started walking toward walking south. The next thing I know, I would pass the office for the Cubs, and I was down to Fullerton, and then I was down on North Avenue, and then Chicago Avenue. And before I know it, I walked all the way down to McCormick Place from 4700 North. And I don't advise that that's what people do on that first time out. What I'm saying is that you need to develop something you could do. And I tell you, I like to walk along the lakefront. It's very therapeutic. The air is good. And if you ever go to the area where they have that little area where it's like a little sanctuary for birds and certain insects and trees, there's an area of some very dense trees there. And I always walk, when I'm walking, I walk in that area just to breathe, because it's so dense with trees and oxygen. And that's very, very good for you. And in terms of dieting, stop looking for the magic bullet in the food. There are no magic bullets. It's all about balance and about eating things and drinking water. I don't care what you decide, what kind of diet you want to be. You got to drink water, and nothing substitutes for it. And to Dr. Tony's point, you got to get sleep. You have got to get sleep. That shutting yourself down is very, very important. And a lot of us think that we got to work all day and all night. That's not healthy. I don't care what you got to do. It's just not healthy. And I learned, I'll talk later, but I learned a lot of this stuff when I was doing a male erectile dysfunction. A male erectile dysfunction was the first time I went to Japan, I went to China, I went to a lot of places learning about this, looking at the drugs, some discovered by accident that they then used commercially. But erectile dysfunction is a dietary disease. It's a dietary disease because what you're doing when you're noticing that the penis doesn't get as firm as it used to, and that's because the blood is not engorged, and that you are able to trap the blood in the penis. And this is why we're having the problem, because we're eating foods that damage those very delicate blood vessels in our body. And every time you eat these things, it damages damages more things in your body. And that's what you heard me talk about 101 times. I talk about on my show all the time. But we really got to understand you can't eat one good meal and think that's going to arrest a lifetime of bad eating. That's not going to do. And I think all of us would agree that that's not the way it works. So if you want to do better, you got to do better, then stay doing better. And you don't have to get really radical. I think we started this off with Dr. Tony talking about the blue zones. And the people there, it's what you do every day that matters, not what you do once in a while. It's what you do every single day that determines your destiny.
Outstanding. Yeah. Well, Yolanda Williams says this is truly the best date night that I look forward to. So outstanding, Yolanda. I love it. I love it. Bonnie says that's so true. And Dee Lee says that's a long walk. Well, Dee Lee, let me tell you something. One thing I'm going to advise you of, and I love the fact of walking, and I have to begin to walk some, but do not, I repeat, do not think you can go on a walk journey with Dr. Terry Mason and Congressman Danny K. Davis. They will walk you until your shoes melt. Trust, I have a pair that melted. So do not go those two, because they do not know how to stop. Yes,
start slow. Start slow.
Yeah.
Walking one block.
I will not walk with them. I will encourage them. But don't you do it. I'm telling you. All right. So
get started.
Sorry, Dr. Mason.
No, I just said just get started. You don't have to do. I just did it. That happened, and I'm now walking. I walk a lot, and I am, and I'm not saying this happened. This did that, but between the walking and the dietary change, I went from 247 pounds down to 155 over time. And that's all I did. I didn't do no radical diets. I didn't do nothing. I continued on my plant-based eating, drank my water, and I got out every day and walked along the lakefront. And how far you walk comfortable for you, huh?
And melted my flip-flops. And melted my flip-flops.
Yeah, I think Dr. Mason is talking about lifestyle changes. And I think that was that's so important. It's not that we are looking to do something for 2 weeks and really get healed from everything that's been going on. These are things that we do that we're going to have to learn to do daily. And part of it is if you go to the grocery store in your car because you needed to carry your grocery home, don't try to find the closest spot to park. Park a little bit further. That's one way to do things. And if we've gotten into these situations. Now, sometimes there's a safety issue, but sometimes it's not so much safety. It's just we just don't take the time to walk 3 or 4 blocks to where we're trying to go, and as opposed to getting in a car or jumping on the bus. These are things that are part of lifestyle changes that are necessary that we can do. And even it doesn't require you to purchase anything. You don't have to purchase gym membership to park at the other end of the parking lot when you go to the grocery store or when you go to other places. And so that can, if you just do that regularly every day, just make certain that, if you're going to the 7th floor, take the elevator. Don't take the elevator all the way to the 7th floor. Take it part of the way and then walk the other distance. Just a little thing that we can do, which only going to take a few minutes extra, that will be so much beneficial if we make those things part of our regular life, daily life. And, just like sleep, just like food, exercise, all these things that we have to make certain that we change some of the habits that we've gotten into that are not healthy, to habits that are doing things that are more, they're going to make us more healthier.
And that's why I wanted to comment on it.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Well, let me just say this. I want, yeah, go ahead.
Dr. Maya does calisthenics. So Dr. Maya, why don't you tell everybody about we've actually done them a little bit together, a little virtually. So tell them about the calisthenics.
So for when I tell people about it, what that means is, like Dr. Mason said, like Dr. Miller and Dr. Hampton said, you don't necessarily have to go to the gym. You can be at home and learn how to create kind of leaner muscle mass, but strong. You know, you don't have to be bulky to be, to be strong, using your own body weight. You know, some people don't think about this, but pull-ups is a form of calisthenics. Push-ups is a form of calisthenics. You know, wall sits is a form of calisthenics, where you just sit there on the wall and just practice holding yourself there. If you don't think, if you're like, that sounds so easy, just try it. You know, and various forms of yoga involve calisthenics. And so, if you're at a place where you're like, hey, I'm not even, guess what? The temperature in Chicago is getting cold. Maybe you're not going outside of the gym, okay? You know, so when you wake up, you can just, whether you're on Instagram or wherever you are, look up calisthenics, and they have, from people that just post, you know, a rotation. A rotation is like 3 or 4 exercises that you're going to do 10 times, and you're going to go through that process 3 times, you know. People just post them for free. So it doesn't cost anything, you know, to be able to access them. Squats is another form. Just squats. Hold your hand like this, squat, you know, is a form. Guess what is one of the best exercises? Just however you do it. If you're, you know, whatever your ability is, practicing getting down on the ground and getting back up. Just get down on the ground, however you get down, and then get back up. Try to do that 20 times. That's another form of calisthenics. Now you can go from there to these people we call free runners. I don't know if you've seen them, you know, but they scale walls and do things like that. But I'm nowhere near that. But I am to the point where I can do exactly what? 15 push-ups. Y'all not ready for me. Y'all not ready for this winter body. So calisthenics is definitely, yes, winter body. 15. Mess with it. Mess with it. You know?
And also we do also, Dr. Tony, you're going to find this one hilarious. We do an African dance that the youth may call twerking.
Oh, watch yourself.
Get you in line.
It comes from West Africa, and it is a originally started as a communal dance. You know, people take it and make it whatever they want, but it's originally a dance from West Africa. In West Africa, we don't call it twerking, but here we do. You know, we do that. And then I do African dance, other African dance. I do belly dance, you know. I'm getting ready to really get into, I don't know if y'all saw this. Y'all remember footwork? It's making a comeback. And you know what? I think I'm going to come back with it, you know. So I'm getting ready to study footwork as a form of dancing. But guess what? If you don't like none of those, and you like the polka or the waltz or whatever form of moving around and getting your body active works for you, go ahead and do it. Because the important thing is that you move your body to keep your body in motion, keep these joints, you know, they always say, if you don't move it, you'll lose it, you know, or if you don't use it, you'll lose it. Keep your body in motion, things like that, but also keep your coordination. It's a form of, as I mature, because I'm mature, like the wine. You know, everybody talking about, do you drink? I don't drink wine, but I get fine like wine as I age, you know. And so as I do that, I just want to keep my body healthy, but also keeping my heart healthy. Like I said before, not for a 46-year-old Maya, because I'm 46 right now, but for 76-year-old Maya, for 106-year-old Maya, because I'm going to be one of them blue zone people. You ain't ready. Yeah. All right. So let's bring the blue zone to Chicago.
So, Dr. Tony, look at Ron Reed's question and tell me your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that studies show that those who have more muscle actually fare better as they age. That's 100% true. When I interviewed Dr. Ben Bokikian, he talked a little bit about the importance of muscle mass. And it is true that arguably one of the top 1 or 2, maybe 3 predictors of longevity is muscle mass. Why? Because if you don't have muscles, particularly in your quads and your glutes, if you think about it, when you stand up, you're using your quads and your glutes. So if you don't have muscle there, then your chances of falling, which is you're going to, once you get to a certain age, your risk of falling is probably one of the number one causes of, leaving this planet early, rather because you hit your head or because you broke your hip. So if you don't have muscle, you're going to fail. Now, when you think about the blue zones and you think about Okinawa, Japan, and Nicoya, Costa Rica, Loma Linda, California, Sardinia, Italy, all of these places in Greece, they actually move, but they don't exercise. They just move because that's what they do. They wake up and they're, I think in one of the episodes in the documentary, they were using paddle balls. So they were kind of doing like a tennis version, but it was a shorter version of tennis. I was a tennis player back in the day at Columbus Park on the west side of Chicago, but they make it senior friendly, and they move, and they're working their quads and their glutes even without them knowing it. So they're hanging out with the sheep, and they're actually working to keep the farms in shape. So what I love about what we're talking about, Dr. Maya's suggestion about dancing, they're doing things like that. They'll dance through the night, but that's like fun exercise. So you're not just working your muscles, you're working your mind. You feel a sense of community. You're having fun. You may have a little wine in your hand if that's your thing. And just being happy and celebratory is so important. And I always tell my patients, many of whom are seniors, if you want to improve your mood, if you want to improve your sex life, since Dr. Terry Mason is here, if you want to reduce your stress, if you want to sleep better, if you want your brain to work better, even if you have arthritis, if you want your arthritis to be less of an issue, and if you're like me and you want to have a healthy gut and have regularity, all of this stuff with exercise, strengthen your bones is what you're going to benefit from. And it's really nice to know that something so simple can have such an impact. And so my message to all of you guys, if you're not a mover, if you're at a point, I have patients who have lost 100 pounds. They were so big that they couldn't exercise. So, but as they lost weight over time, they went from this particular patient, Mamie Daniels. If you go to my Fix Your Diet, Fix Your Diabetes book on Amazon, there's a video at the bottom. Mamie Daniels, she lost about 100 pounds. She came to the clinic and she was overweight, and without exercise, she lost 100 pounds. She went from a wheelchair to a walker to using a cane. And she barely needs the cane, but it took time. So you want to give yourself permission to, give yourself some time to heal. And if you do that, you will do just fine. One of the other questions was, what's the name of the Blue Zones documentary? If you go to Netflix, it'll say Live to 100 Secrets of the Blue Zones. So check that out. Again, look at those principles they talk about, and I think you'll find value in checking that out.
So I know you guys are going to hate to hear me say this, but guess what? Oh, it's that time. So we want to make sure, grab Netflix and watch the Blue Zones. Am I correct? Is that
Absolutely.
what it is?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I want to also tell you another movie on Netflix that I think you should grab and you should grab it and check it out. And it's called Painkiller. So grab Netflix and look at Painkiller. You're going to have a different thought on some of the medications that you take. So not saying don't take medicine, just saying check out this set of medication and be very careful with how you use it. So make sure that you watch Blue Zones, and when you get a minute on Netflix, check out Painkillers. Just want to do our Until Next Mondays and a couple announcements. Just to remember that Congressman Danny K. Davis has his Departing with Dignity Part 2 coming up. B-Dog you saw Painkiller, huh? Yeah. So Departing with Dignity, October 5th. That's Thursday, October 5th at the Callahan Foundation. It's 7040 South on Hosted. So join us there at 3 p.m. It's going to be from 3 to 5 at the Callahan Foundation, right there on the corner of Hosted at 7040 South on Hosted. Want to also remind you guys of our couch conversations on Mondays. If you have any questions that you want to bring up, our special guest for our part 2, talking about diabetes and endocrinology and all of those great things, will be on next Monday. So join us next Monday and spread the word so we can have that robust conversation just like we had on today. Dr. Miller, your until next Monday.
Oh.
Sometimes we spend a lot of time thinking too much when we need to be acting. We need to get active doing what the process is. And so when we're talking about lifestyle changes and those various things, whatever it is that you're able to do, just do it. If it's just walking, just do it. If it's beginning to cut back on uh, those unhealthy foods that you're eating, just start doing it. It's not going to change you in 1 or 2 days, but over a period of time, over a lifetime, you're going to receive benefits that you cannot otherwise receive. I mean, you can't get this by taking medication to control these other problems, because now you're preventing these problems, you're not dealing with them. And so you're healthier, you're happier, and you got a better life. So just get started with the changes that you need to make, and then just work on them. Continue to work on them. It's a process of being a persistent. And if you begin to see that, the results that you're looking for will follow, but you got to start doing it.
Absolutely. Just do it. I love it. Dr. Mason, you're until next Monday.
Yeah, I just want to leave us with is that you are the most important asset you have. More than your car, more than your house, more than anything else. You are the most important asset you have. And you need to act like it. You need to make sure that you take care of yourself. And that's by watching what, we're very careful to make sure we don't put the wrong kind of gas in the car, the wrong weight of oil and all the other stuff, but we don't take that care with our own bodies. So you just got to be more concerned about making sure that you do the things for yourself to improve yourself, because ain't nobody else going to do it if you don't.
I love it. I love it. So we got to just do it. And remember, what's the great asset? And that's you. Dr. Maya, you're until next Monday.
Well, until next Monday, I want to thank the team here for this conversation. It encourages me to continue, and I want to encourage everybody else to continue to keep yourself active, keep yourself healthy. A lot of religions or spirituality or beliefs, we talk about our bodies being the temple, and so we have to watch what we put in it. And I want to reflect on COVID impacts, diabetes, all those things, right? What it boils down to is when your body is healthy, your mind is sharper, and your body can process and handle things a lot more efficiently and a lot differently. So we don't want to wait for another COVID to come for us to say, oh, I should have gotten healthy. Community, now is the time, right? Be the tribe. That's it.
All right. These are outstanding until next Mondays. Once again, Dr. Miller said, just do it. Dr. Mason tells you to be the asset. And come on. Dr. Maya says, be the tribe. She's being thankful and making sure that you stay on target. I'm sorry, Maya.
Oh, I was saying this is coming together. I like what you're saying, Nikki. I know it's adding up.
That's it.
Put the pieces together.
Right, yeah. You're until next Monday.
I just want to thank Congressman again for the opportunity to have a platform. I'll always remember the day that Nikki and Dr. Pete asked me to be a guest just to come through. And next thing you know, they hooked me in, and with my wife's permission, I'm able to hang out with you guys. So I want to say that first. Appreciate you, Nikki, and the Congressman. I do want to appreciate all the engagement we had from all of you guys with your questions and just your show of love and appreciation. Even a chat where it was a little bit of a contribution. That's very good to see. But I do want to say this. I'm also just grateful to have a diverse panel. We all have different backgrounds. We have different approaches. And just to be able to, allow people to hear those differing messages is so important. So, but I do want to caution everybody that you're going to hear different messages, and that's what's confusing, right? So one thing I like about the Blue Zones is that they absolutely are spot on in terms of the basic approaches to being healthy. but never just trust one source. Always question everything. Myself, I've been in documentaries like Beyond Impossible. Dr. Mason's been in documentaries like Forks Over Knives. And whether you have one approach or the other, use that as the foundation to ask further questions. But the best source to determine what's best for your body is when you do an experiment N of 1, right? So you listen to your body, be open to experimentation, and let your body be the final answer. You'd be surprised how your body has the answer already built in. You just got to give it a chance to give you the answer. So I wrap up with that, and I thank you guys again for the opportunity to just be here with you guys.
Well, look at what happened. Dr. Miller told you to what? Just do it. Dr. Mason said to be the asset. Dr. Maya said be the tribe. And Dr. Tony wants you to be informed. So look at that. It all comes together. One thing I do want to remind you guys of, if you have not, I want to share the new CDC study with you. This new CDC study talks about the 5 leading causes of death. Number 3 on that list, something that has moved up to number 3, is COVID. It's right under cancer and heart disease. So now, that lets us know that when this new COVID vaccine comes out, the updated COVID vaccine, because COVID numbers are on the rise, let's be smart. Let's all stay alive. Let's all encourage each other to do what's right. So until then, we'll see you on next Monday. And remember, be the tribe. Good night.
Good night, guys.
Good night.